Alright, I'm currently on my way to Google's demonstration, which is essentially a product showcase. There were quite a lot of announcements made at Google I/O, and now there's an opportunity for YouTubers to get some hands-on experience and receive more detailed explanations. Today we're looking at the collaboration between Samsung and Qualcomm, which is seen as a rival to the Apple Vision Pro. This is the XR device from Project Infinite. And right here, Google is introducing the Android XR operating system for the very first time in this Gemini era. Yes, so right now I've come to a place called Google's Immersive Lab. I'm here to get a first-hand experience with Google's new XR device. I'm quite excited to see what it's like. It appears that many big tech companies are continuing to invest and increasingly commercialize products in this specific area. So, let's go and take a look. Apple, for instance, has already introduced Vision OS along with their Vision Pro device, but Google has not yet released specific plans or details about their forthcoming XR device. But now, we're seeing the emergence of this new operating system called Android XR, which is part of the Gemini era. So they've ended up developing a dedicated operating system specifically for this extended reality technology. Essentially, this means that Google is also now entering this particular market. However, as you can see right here, they are indeed approaching this by segmenting it into 4 distinct lineups, creating different tiers. Ultimately, XR devices require interaction in entirely novel ways, driven by the user's intentions and a comprehension of the environment. This is precisely why Google Glass has seen a revival, and why we're witnessing the introduction of these new XR devices. This was all made possible because Gemini can recognize everything by voice and process all images through its multimodal capabilities. So Google, Samsung, and Qualcomm have collaborated, with Google handling the Android XR part and Samsung making the device itself. But with Qualcomm's involvement, it appears Samsung's Exynos chip isn't being used. It seems to be Qualcomm's Snapdragon instead. I've thoroughly looked into which generation is included, so let's examine this together in more detail. And there are numerous Android-based partners involved, so including various companies like Naver in our country, and all of those applications that Google already possesses can now be experienced in extended reality. For example, Apple doesn't currently support YouTube on Vision OS. You can't experience YouTube on it. However, with Google's device, you can have a lot more immersive experiences, and there are also immersive experiences available on Google Maps as well. So, being able to leverage all of these things is a really big strength that they are emphasizing. Actually, regarding this XR device, there was already a discussion at the end of last year in the Samsung newsroom about combining it with Galaxy AI to expand the XR experience. And this is where the term Android XR platform is being used for the very first time, and the codename is now Project Infinity. Everyone in Korea knows exactly what infinity means. It's, well, infinity. So, it accepts multimodal inputs, whether that's audio, images, or text, and then gives you back an immersive experience. So there's already been a lot of anticipation about how it can integrate with various applications like Google Maps and so on. And back in March at MWC, they made more announcements about these things, and they actually had this device on display there. So tech YouTubers, including international ones, actually got to experience Project Infinity through the Android extended reality platform, and there was a lot of interest. Honestly, Apple's Vision Pro didn't quite create a massive splash, and there were concerns the market might be fading, but with Google now participating, people have become quite interested in this device's performance. But this whole experiential part seems like it's going to be really important, and Project Infinity is expected to be available around the end of this year, and they're actually saying that they will indeed be releasing the product. Since they aim to compete, there were high expectations, and after trying it myself, I found it really impressive. But honestly, the part that I was actually more curious about was the hardware specifications of this device, although it's not officially confirmed information at this time. However, it appears that it's equipped with the Snapdragon XR2 Plus Generation 2 chipset. Essentially, this provides support for high-resolution dual displays on XR devices, a capability that was initially announced back in the year 2021. It seems to have significantly reduced latency, and Apple makes all their own processors. They make their own R1 processors and such, but in the XR space it really appears that Qualcomm with their Snapdragon is firmly in control and leading the way. So, just like in the mobile era where Snapdragon and Google's Android combined, they will continue to do so in XR. So later there could be collaboration between mobile phones and XR devices. It's important to have no delay because even a small amount of lag can make what you're seeing and what your brain perceives different, which causes your body's reaction to be off, and that usually results in motion sickness. However, when I actually used it myself, I did not experience any nausea. The latency has significantly decreased and it's tethered to a portable battery pack. So first, reducing the headset's main body weight improves comfort, and it can also help alleviate heat issues. Cable connections from the battery might limit activity, but since Project Infinite isn't commercialized yet, it could come out in a completely different form. However, with this battery pack, you get roughly 2 to 3 hours of use, making it portable and not restricted to one spot. I previously created a video discussing the Vision Pro, and we frequently mention OLED displays. It's micro OLED, not micro LED, it's micro OLED. They say this project uses a micro OLED display, and there's a rumor that the display used in Project Infinite is Sony's 4K micro OLED display. It's not exactly confirmed, but anyway, they're using micro OLED instead of LCD. Detailed technical explanations are available if you visit this location, but to state it in a straightforward manner, each and every pixel within this micro OLED technology actually emits its own light source. The response time is faster and the contrast ratio is better, so when combined with 4K resolution, it can provide sharp and vivid image quality, almost like real life. But in XR devices, we call this the screen door effect. You can configure it so that the phenomenon where the pixel grid looks like a mosquito net is barely noticeable. In the case of OLED OS, there's a glass, and at the very bottom, as you can see, there's a silicon substrate. Micro OLED, also known as OLED OS, means OLED placed on top of silicon. So, because we have to look at the display so very closely right there near our eyes, if the spacing between the pixels isn't incredibly tight and dense, you're inevitably going to see the pixel grid, which can look just like a mosquito net. But with this particular device, it's so imperceptible, much like the Vision Pro, that it strongly suggests the use of micro OLED technology, which consequently could lead to a higher price point. So, it's estimated to be around 3500 by 3500 per eye, which means a high pixel density, or PPI. This very high pixel density significantly enhances the readability of text and also greatly increases the sense of realism even when virtual objects appear. And this brightness can actually go up to 1000 nits at around 20% power, which honestly is pretty similar to the peak brightness of a typical smartphone. So I think it'll be easy to view even in environments with a lot of ambient light. They seem to have paid a lot of attention to the display. Google is introducing its very first XR device, which is built on Android XR. And when the Apple Vision Pro was initially released, the only existing XR device on the market was just the Meta Quest. And since Meta's goal was mass market adoption, they opted for using less expensive components. So the strategy was to capture the market quickly by widely distributing it. But then the high-end Vision Pro came out from Apple. Do you think Google would just stand by? They will certainly create an even superior device. So, in various lighting conditions, especially with HDR content, it can vividly express bright scenes much brighter and dark scenes much darker, making it feel like you are actually seeing it. The current refresh rate is approximately 90 frames per second, so it appears that for a premium tier XR device, a rate of around 90 has become the established benchmark. When I actually use this pinch gesture for hand tracking, it works incredibly naturally with virtually no latency, meaning a separate controller really isn't necessary. You can do everything with your fingers. It recognizes in real time, letting you interact with virtual objects right away. It even gets very fine gestures, like for a small button far off. Pinching to control those small buttons was actually quite convenient. Of course, for really tiny parts, maybe I am not used to it yet, or it needs more practice. But anyway, I could feel that they were targeting interactions just by seeing things and using gestures without needing any other controller, which felt really intuitive. And honestly, the most amazing part was that I barely missed any inputs at all during the entire demonstration. Even though this is my very first time using this new device, it feels like it responds almost perfectly without missing any inputs whatsoever. The hand contours accurately and quickly match the real hand position, and you can resize windows by grabbing the edges or corners to expand them. If you turn your palm towards yourself and pinch, you can access the home menu. It seems they really focused on making things intuitive. Oh, it made me think Apple isn't the only one who can do this, but of course we'll see when it's out. Overall, I felt this provided a significantly superior experience compared to the Meta Quest, although it's still slightly less advanced than the Vision Pro. Yet it seemed much more progressive when it comes to applications, largely because you could immediately access and use pre-existing Google apps such as YouTube and Google Maps. Essentially, because it offers pass-through, people positioned behind you can consistently view with ease thanks to its high resolution, minimal latency, and full-color display. Consequently, the capability to directly interact with the real world is quite advantageous. Additionally, the lighting remains unobstructed. Being able to use the headset in that state, the sense of depth and closeness you feel is also a great aspect. Because it uses that 4K micro OLED, the visual experience is really quite impressive. First of all, you can really feel that this is a good product because the pixel density is quite high, and you can see that the colors are very diverse. When I played some 4K nature videos on YouTube, they just spread across my face and it felt like, wow, I am truly in nature. Yeah, I got that kind of feeling. Basically, when you're using an app, it appears as a 2D window right in the center, but if you tap the expand button in something like the YouTube app, the display actually curves, providing a sort of theater-like feeling, making it much larger and more immersive. And when using Chrome, it's easy to multitask with multiple virtual screens, and you can navigate much more easily by simply moving your hand quickly instead of using a mouse. And I had a feeling that, well, people are really going to start using this quite a bit now. It seems to be designed to create a workspace as large as the user wants without the limitations of physical monitors, similar to the Vision Pro. And if you have too many screen layouts, you can just say, hey Gemini, clean this up. So you don't have to manually turn off each and every item just by speaking. So from Google's perspective, with Gemini being pretty advanced, it has become a lot easier to integrate it with Android XR, which gives gives them a significant advantage. And with Google Maps, you can just say, hey, take me to Paris, take me to the Eiffel Tower. With this, you could really pull in that immersive experience and check it out, and it felt like people would genuinely want to have these sorts of experiences. When I tried it, it felt much lighter and more comfortable than the Vision Pro. The adjustment at the back, similar to the Meta Quest, involves turning a knob to fine-tune the fit, which felt quite comfortable. The main thing is whether you can use it for long periods without getting motion sickness, and for immersive content, factors like weight distribution, and ventilation are important. Even after using it for a long time, it was clear they paid a lot of attention to these aspects. There's a lot of talk about how group projects with Samsung, Google, and Qualcomm don't usually turn out well, but my experience was really great. Maybe I didn't have high expectations. Honestly, could it be as good as the Vision Pro? I've been thinking about that a bit, and it appears they really targeted the Vision Pro directly to compete. Also, I've actually had LASIK eye surgery. So I personally don't wear glasses, but during the demonstration, they also provided prescription lens inserts for individuals who do wear glasses. Initially, when you click it, it adjusts the focus, so things that were a bit blurry at first get perfectly clear for your eyes. Regarding the weight, it definitely feels significantly better and more comfortable compared to the Vision Pro, and when I inquired with fellow YouTubers, their impressions were quite similar as well. And the absolute best part is, as I already mentioned, you can use Google apps like Google Photos, Google Maps, and YouTube. You can even watch videos in 4K resolution or switch to a truly immersive experience. Plus, you can interact with Gemini AI, making the integration process significantly easier. This offers a much more significant advantage compared to Siri, particularly because Apple is somewhat lagging in AI. Consequently, when Gemini reaches its complete stage and is integrated with Android XR, you'll truly perceive its capabilities. With this integration, Gemini can merge with Google's extensive search data services and its entire ecosystem, potentially offering users a much more personalized and tailored experience than ever before. Regarding the cost, I anticipate that the price point will likely be somewhat lower than that of Apple's Vision Pro, which is currently priced at approximately $3,500. But I think it'll still come out much more expensive than the Quest, or rather the Meta Quest, because they used micro OLED to make it much more premium. It definitely has that premium model feel, but we'll really have to see how it is when it actually comes out. Andigom also runs an international channel under the name Unreal Tag. Recommended to those around you who are more comfortable with English, and you can also study English and see how well I speak it. You can consistently find short videos and humorous clips on Andigom's Instagram page, so please give us lots of attention and stay informed with all the newest information. This concludes my report from Era. Thank you all for tuning in.